So Nancy has been part of this discussion for the last, 7 years, I guess. We started in 2015. And you probably saw that I sent out some background that the Maine Broadband Coalition, you all put together. And why don't we just start? It was Peter that raised the issue last time as we were seeing Southport, our neighbors, go down in their vote. And Peter said, why don't we get ahead of this? And we thought that was probably a good idea. So maybe you can just bring people up to date where we're at, or where the statewide effort. I don't know if people had a chance to read what I sent out today, but it's some background on this whole issue of what the Alliance for Quality Broadband is and what the attempts are to derail local efforts for municipally owned broadband. So if you can, Nancy, with the competition in the back, maybe point out what's most important for us to know, and maybe some suggestions what we can do now moving forward. I did see one thing legislatively in terms of, well, you can get into that I think it was in your article or something, that towns could require people to report what they're spending on local referendums. But maybe we could get into that issue as you talk about what's the discussion has been.
Sure, that sounds good. And as I said when I first came on, I'm in a public place, so I will be speaking quietly and discreetly, just to be sure that I'm not bothering people around me, and I have no idea who's around me. So I appreciate the chance to talk with you all as we're setting in. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, and,
okay.
And we also have Dusty Jones, our selectman in Wisconsin, who's joined us.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you. So the Broadband Coalition has a policy committee that generally is focused on the legislature. And what we're finding is the work that we're doing there pivots beautifully to dealing with community level advocacy. And that's really what we're talking about here, that there is a campaign against municipal broadband hosted by this, it's called an AstroTurf organization. They pretend that they're a grassroots organization and they try to look like one, but we all know this is plastic grass. This isn't the grassroots. That's what the Maine Broadband Coalition is. So it's the policy committee that's been working on this and bringing others in. And I can give you a rough, I think, a couple of key points. And I think that Carla sent some really good resources to you. And then I'm happy to follow up in the future when I'm not in a public place and not on the verge of buying a house, so that I can be a little more present. But I did think through, I guess, do you want to start with what is AQB, or are you all
probably
there?
should, because we have some new people on here today. So yeah.
So, and Carla, I don't know if you're able to share links in the chat while we're talking, but this is a national group, and it seems to be working in several states, including Maine. And we know that the target is communities or municipalities where community broadband is coming up for a vote, where Spectrum has a market interest. So those are the starting points, and their strategy is misinformation or manipulation of information. So it's not like it's wrong facts, they're just not relevant and they're twisted. And it takes an awful lot of time to try to push back against that, which may or may not be an effective use of time versus other messaging. So that's a little bit about who they are. You can go to the website. If you Google them, you can find it. Or again, I think Carla has probably.
It was in my emails, but those who just joined the group don't have that. We can send it out.
Well, yeah, anything you can do to keep sending or keep people informed on that. There are places to look for who their membership is, and then I think there's a separate page just for Maine. One of the interesting dynamics, I'm assuming you're all coming together because first there was the BDN article, and then there was the Maine Public Broadcasting story. And in that, we saw that the chambers, the State Chamber of Commerce and Portland and other regional ones, had come on board as partners with AQB Probably not doing a whole lot of research, and of course not checking with the Broadband Coalition to say, hey, what is this other group? So they are being held accountable for that through MPBN, where you saw some of the quotes about they didn't actually know that these were some of the tactics being used. So I think you're going to be seeing some pivoting of the chambers pretty soon related to that. With that as background, let me just hit on a couple of points about, let me ask, I guess, one question. How soon will you be looking at municipal votes related to broadband?
Probably 12 to 18 months. Let's
Okay.
just say that.
Okay, so it's not next week.
Oh, no. We're,
Okay,
we're
great.
nowhere near ready. Yeah.
Well, God bless you for thinking to do this now. One of the things I would suggest, Carla sent, I think in a later email, a link to Grow Smart Maine has a lot of community resources, and one of them is on local advocacy. How do you advocate for an issue at the municipal level? And much of what I'm saying is going to come from that. And let me start, I guess advocacy is supporting an effort. Lobbying is a very specific thread of advocacy, but when you're talking about support of something, and if you're bringing people information and encouraging them to engage and encouraging them to support something, that's advocacy. There are times when people are wary of saying that they don't really want to do advocacy or lobbying, but that's all it is. Advocacy in particular is having conversations, giving people information, giving them an opportunity to learn more, and that you hope that they'll support your position. It's what we do with most of our conversations, honestly, whether you liked a movie or something as big as an investment in municipal broadband. So that's advocacy. I would encourage you to get comfortable with it because that's going to be a key part of this. When you do advocacy, there are components to messaging that you need to think about, and you all know this, but it's just kind of giving it some structure. Number one, be clear on what the purpose is. What is the goal of the communication that you have of your messaging? And then who is your audience? Who are you trying to reach with this message? And usually the purpose is you want them to take an action, in this case, a vote in support of something. When you think about your audience, who is the trusted messenger? Who is the person that person or this group of people is going to be most comfortable with? Normally it's a peer or it's someone they have an established relationship with. So when you think about your community and think about the different kinds of people that you want to engage, who are the people that they look to? And can you get them involved and delivering that message? Because then it'll be heard. One of the things I was really concerned in looking at what Southport went through with AQB is that AQB was able to say that they were able to twist the information about whether this was tax dollars or not, and then add the comment, can you really trust these people? About the municipal volunteers and elected officials who are working on this. So one of the ways for you to inoculate yourself from that is transparency and a whole lot of outreach. So whenever you're do public outreach and sharing of information, think through all of the avenues. Where do people look for information? Getting the press involved gives an authority, a credibility to what you're doing. But have conversations about, is Facebook a right fit, or are you just going to get screamers involved there? But it's often the one-on-one conversations. And, I think one of the things that Broadband Coalition could do, if you are interested, is giving you tools and helping you practice. How do you have that conversation with your neighbor? Because that's where minds are opened, is when you've got somebody that you already know who's talking to you about something they care about. So with the messaging, again, what's your goal? Who's your audience? And then who's the best messenger for that audience? The other thing to remember, and it's really funny, at the point where you are sick and tired of getting the message out there is the point where your audience starts to hear it. There's something in marketing about a person has to hear something 7 times before they start to pay attention. That's why commercials run to the point where you're going to scream. Because if you've seen the same commercial 8 times, 15 times, you're very aware of what it is. If you only see it twice, it just doesn't filter in. So keep in mind that even though it may feel like you're overwhelming people with information, we're all busy. So keep when you have the message clear, or messages, of course, then just feel free to keep them out there in different avenues as often as you can. The other piece to that is, when I did reading some background in the newspaper article about what happened in Southport, there are legitimate questions people have. Why does it cost $1 million to provide broadband to 100 households? That's a really good question. If you just divide it by, the dollars by the household, wow, that's a lot of money. And there is a very wonderful response to that about what you get for it, who owns it, how long it's going to last, the certainty that comes with it. But be prepared as you're having conversations with people and as you're doing the outreach. Listen to what concerns are being raised, and the Broadband Coalition can work with you on what are the responses to that. And so that's like the part of the marketing, but also transparency. That if you're, I noticed that this committee meeting is being recorded. Think about, is it appropriate to post recordings of these meetings so that people are aware of them? What can you do so that if there is an accusation of things done in the dark of night, you can go, you got to be kidding me. We invite everyone, we let you know ahead of time when the Zooms are, we post them, and then we mark it, then we post the links so that everybody can find it. Those are some of the arguments that were used in Southport. Can you really trust them? And there's something hinky going on here. So anything you can do to be excruciatingly transparent is going to be helpful, and it's just good process. And then the final point I would make on all of this is, I think, reiterate what I had said before. Your trusted relationships that you have with your neighbors, that's your superpower. That if you leverage those relationships, and I know that sounds maybe kind of gross, but that's what you do, is who are the people who you can have conversations with, and make sure that it's a conversation. Make sure that you're hearing their concerns so that they have responses from you before they hear misinformation from other people. So that's, it's not rocket science, but it takes effort, it takes being thoughtful, and for some it takes getting out of your comfort zone. But it's a whole lot better than having, the experience Southport had, where it got personal and angry, and they lost the vote. And we don't know what it's going to take to they have to return money, and there's money that's sunk and lost. And, will that community ever come back around to it? I don't know. So that's an intro, and I'd love to hear from you more about what we at the Broadband Coalition can help you. And I'm thrilled that you're looking a year out, because that's when you need to just start embedding. It's just in the environment, it's just in the background. Oh yeah, broadband is coming, and here's why. So I'm going to stop talking and listen.
Before I open it up, I have a question. Do we know what Leeds did differently, because they approved it when Spectrum was fighting Hamden and China, but they were able to?
I don't know how aggressively the Alliance went after Leeds. I don't know if it was part of their market mix and they wanted to, or if they were just getting this AstroTurf organization up and running. And I do want to save time for the, Carla had mentioned the disclosure for campaign reporting, but I think I'd like to hear your questions and feedback on what I had said.
Okay. Comments, questions for Nancy?
Yeah, I raised my hand here. I read the main public radio story, and one of the things that came to my mind was they had mentioned that towns don't have ordinances or whatever to have this different the information not reported who's presenting it. So I was wondering if we could have the select board have that as a warrant article in November, so that any local referendums would require people to identify who's funding it.
Let's just dive into that one,
Yes,
because
yes.
that is critical. And when we talked about how do we raise public awareness about what's going on with AQB, the advice we got was, this is the story. It's not about this other group, because that's like inside baseball, but this is the story. So when I saw the full page ad in the Kennebec Journal for about relevant to the Reed Field vote, I wondered, well, how much does that cost? How much did they spend? And so I reached out to the Maine Ethics Commission and asked about, where do I find reports for municipal campaign spending? And what I learned was that a municipality with fewer than 15,000 residents must opt in to the state reporting requirements. If you don't, and I think there are only like 13 towns in Maine that have more than 15,000 people, there are 3 towns that opted in. So the huge majority of Maine towns, this means dark money for any campaign, any warrant article, any referenda that there is no reporting requirement.
And who must you opt in with?
The Maine Ethics Commission. My advice to all of you, you have a very powerful force with the Maine Municipal Association of their advocacy and communications. And she said MMA is very aware and upset about this misinformation campaign. And one of the outcomes of the BDM story was Senator Rick Bennett from Oxford County contacted me and said, tell me more about this loophole. A gaping black hole in reporting. He is planning to include legislation next year to address this. He's got a package of government reform and legislation, and he's going to include this. So I think in the immediate, ask MMA, and then if you're talking about because it takes time, and I say immediate, but it is for next year. It takes time to get these things rolling, and MMA needs to hear from its members. It listens to the elected officials. So you're going to ask your select board to contact MMA and say this is a priority for next year. The second is
what department does Kate do for work in at MMA?
She is advocacy and communications. So she's the head of their lobbying effort and more.
Okay.
And in the, your question about what to do for November, I don't know the answer, but MMA would. I would go to MMA because they're going to gather the information for all of you rather than every town contacting the Ethics Commission. I haven't had time to look at what does it mean to opt in? What are the fiscal implications? I don't know the background. This is, I think, 2 weeks old now. But it's a critical issue.
I assume that the coalition will be front and center for getting that information quickly.
Right, the Broadband Coalition will be on board with this, absolutely.
And on this, we have 2 select board members here on the committee now. Donna's a newly elected from Dresden, and Dusty has been on the Wiscasset Select Board as our liaison. So
if you haven't yet, reach out to MMA and say, what are we doing with this, both the short term and for next legislative session? And again, this is going to be huge because it's not just broadband. Think of if dark money comes into any selectman's race or any other referendum that you've got, or any ordinance changes where you don't know who's doing full page ads. We were able to learn, you saw in the BDN article that they spent $14,000 on media. They spent another $14,000 on Facebook ads targeting Reed Field. And they were very good at their targeting, that there was an ad of a mother and a child at a table and your children's education is at risk. And they targeted women who live in that geography of a certain age in order to scare people. and make them rethink their vote. So it's not, we're focused on this for broadband, but think of it for any other votes that happen at the municipal level. This is huge and will be a big issue now into the next legislative session.
Did
Uh,
we have the link to this BDN article?
Yeah, I sent that one to you this morning.
Oh,
That was the one from July 7th, I think it was. Yeah, last week it was in. So
okay.
I only got to this morning, but it's there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we're assuming this is going to take a while for us to coalesce. We don't even have data yet for our infrastructure plans. But do other people have questions or comments or suggestions for Nancy at this stage?
Well, I thought that was very interesting that they paid for ads, $15,000, you said, on Facebook. And
Plus,
this was
I think 14,000 each, so 28,000 for a town, the population of 2,500.
wow.
That tells you the money that's at stake if they're willing to invest that in preventing this from moving forward.
25.
Yeah,
Is it just Spectrum who's part of this, or are all the big incumbents part of this group?
you can look at the group that's on the membership on the website. That's the one that's relevant to Maine. Again, this is a national organization. So we're seeing it play out here. I think it's also in Alabama and some other states. And one point I want to add, because you are so early in, is the phrase preaching to the choir. If you're currently talking to people who are already on board and already agree, and you're working to make great things happen, that's where the work gets done, and that's wonderful. But even now, start talking to the people who are not wholly focused on broadband, who don't understand why upspeeds matter. That it's not just about downloading whatever you want to from the internet, it's about being able to communicate. So think about in your communities, who are the people who probably aren't thinking about broadband, and make sure that they're aware that this is happening. That was one of the comments in Southport, is like, this came out of nowhere. Well, as you know, it doesn't know, that's not how it works. But if you're not letting just a steady drumbeat of this is who we are, this is what we're doing, here's the upcoming meeting, and if you're comfortable, here's a recording of last week's meeting. So that when the accusations fly that this was dark of night and out of the blue, you can say, actually, no, and here's the information on how we've been sharing this and inviting people in. And then again, it's got to be a two-way conversation. Nobody likes being talked at. And I apologize if I'm talking at you, but have the conversation and find out what their questions are. What is their knee-jerk reaction to it? You're going to learn so much at this stage that will help your messaging as you go forward.
Is the coalition, I mean, I've seen different talking points, but are you getting together more talking points, particularly and messaging specifics around particularly dealing with what we know now?
Yes, there was a meeting this morning specific to what were the lessons learned from Southport that was guided by Island Institute, and that will come back to the Broadband Coalition. I mean, the irony is that we thought our policy committee would be able to go quiet when the legislature adjourned. And in fact, we are continuing to meet weekly to have conversations and talk about what the heck is going on here to, okay, so now what do we do?
Yeah,
So,
Evan, you were on that call, right? Evan's what are you, connectivity?
I'm the connectivity booster for Lincoln County. So I was on the Southport call this morning listening to
okay, good.
some of the stuff.
Do you want to add anything? Because all I have a chance to do is read notes from it, but you were on the call.
Trying to, other than it was a lot of narrative, but it was a lot of just, you have to make the case that uploads, just like you were saying, upload speeds are what we have to focus on. Spectrum can obviously give people download speeds, but they can't give you upload speeds, and they will continually put out press and put out mailers that you don't need upload, you don't need all this. Well, you only don't need it because they can't give it to you, just like a terrible ex-boyfriend. So that's kind of the
You found the new tagline: Spectrum, the terrible ex-boyfriend.
yeah.
Who does anybody have the ensemble of disinformation advertising materials that were used against broadband?
We're gathering those. They're not public yet. We have to figure out, how do we package this? How do we share it? So we're gathering it so that we have it. And then we need to figure out what's the best way to share this to get it out there. And again, I think early and often, the more that we can share, here's some ridiculousness that we're hearing. And then we need the counter. You don't want to get in an argument because then it becomes about their talking points. But just to be able to say, when the flyers hit your town, that you want people to go, oh, yeah, I've heard about this. I'm going to call Peter and let him know it just came in my mail. I mean, that's the ideal for what's happening.
Have certain towns done it well for this kind of preempting, or I guess it's just too new?
Nobody has seen it coming. Southport barely saw it coming after Reedfield. They had a week. There's 1 week between what happened to Reedfield and Southport's vote, and we tried to help them. The article in the BDN came out that morning, but as we all know, reading one thing that morning isn't going to change people's minds, and it's not going to get people out to vote.
One thing that I carry with this is, I think we have to be more proactive in making the committee and the effort known. I mean, it's on our everything's posted to the town website, and it's under the Broadband Committee. We've had a couple of articles, but it's not, I don't think it has been enough assertion of or welcoming people in and saying, if you proactively, I guess that's what I'm saying. That's one thing I'm hearing.
Yeah, it's an excellent point. It's really important to have it on the town website. You've got to do that in whatever way you can, but expecting people to wander over there out of curiosity, you're not going to get enough voters. Again, what is the purpose of the messaging? It's so that you can have the proposal that you work on for the next 18 months pass. And you can't rely on people getting curious and going on their own, but you do need it there to point them to.
Yeah, go ahead, I'm sorry.
What about people who now are not currently connected to the internet and don't have an email address? What's the best way to reach them?
I would flip the question back to you. That's the kind of work that you all need to do. Who is our audience? How do we reach them? So I guess I'd add that, because I'll add that to my notes here. How do you reach them? And then what message is effective and who would the messenger be?
I thought about second-class mail. I mean, it's cheap to get a permit, and it doesn't cost that much to send stuff out. If you have the mailing list from the town, you should be able to generate something like that. A postcard.
Yeah, postcards are actually very effective if you're going to do a mailer, because people can look at it and get your message as they're walking to the recycle bin. Most of us do not actually open second-class mail. So with the postcard, as they're going, even if that's all they do, that's one of your 7 hits. Oh yeah, something about broadband. And then the second time they get a postcard, they'll go, oh, I remember that, what's going on here. And postcards are cheaper to mail. I don't know about second class mail, but they're easier. Nobody's stuffing envelopes.
Yeah, good idea.
It seems like towns will want to set aside a certain amount of budget for doing this advocacy. That might be something we can get ahead of now by.
There's also some grant money available for that as well, too.
Cool.
From who?
Specifically for advocacy, Evan?
Yeah, coming up because of all of this action, they're
Okay.
making it a specific category, either from Broadband Coalition, the state, or from Island Institute, one of the 3 at least.
Good.
So which of those has grant money?
I'm not sure yet,
Okay,
but
It's
everybody's
under
talking about
discussion.
ask
Yeah.
Evan.
it's making its rounds. Just there's no open season yet for it.
And the other thing is invite people to join the main Broadband Coalition. For individuals to join, it's free, and you get a weekly newsletter. You get to find out what's going on. I have, between the TV that's on here in the dealership and my computer, seen there's an announcement about more broadband money from King. What is that? Main Broadband Coalition will send an update and give you here's the link and here's a little bit about what it is, because it's overwhelming, the information that's coming out about broadband. It's exciting, but it's overwhelming.
So yeah, it's a lot to digest. We're not represented on the advisory group to the Broadband Coalition. I'm wondering if somebody in this group really, I think that's every 3 months. Isn't it quarterly or, yeah, quarterly?
It's quarterly. Have a conversation with whether it's Andrew or Nick about how they're comprising the advisory committee. And of course, another piece, this is minutia, but the Broadband Coalition is about to become a 501c3. So there will be a board, whereas right now we're a coalition with a fiscal agent and members. So making sure that there's, I think, a community member, whether it's from this region, and that person shares broadly with their peers is going to be important. And also the Broadband Coalition is in the process of hiring an executive director so that we've got one person who's focused on the Broadband Coalition rather than, I'm one of about, 10 to 20 people who we do this in addition to everything else we're doing.
Mhm.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Other questions? I mean, we know where you live, so we can, maybe I don't know where your new Ellsworth house is, but we can find out.
On that last note that Nancy made, I think it's very important that you guys recognize that you want to keep vendors off of your boards. So if you are doing a board of advisors or whatever you want to call it, for the Broadband Coalition, you want to make sure that you stay technology agnostic. I've noticed that creeps into some other entities, and that's perceived as a potential conflict of interest. So it's just a sensitive point at this moment here in Dresden, but I just wanted to take the moment and make a note about that.
It's a really good point, Dawn. And we have some Maine-based internet service providers who are active in the Broadband Coalition. We need their expertise. I can talk to you about advocacy and messaging all day long. To be able to talk with you of the intricacies of, actually now I can talk to you about poll attachment because of bills we've had. We need their expertise. What we watch carefully is the ratio of communities, nonprofits like Island Institute and GrowSmart, service providers, other professionals, and we watch people's behavior. I mean, one of the questions that I raised recently is Spectrum a member of the Broadband Coalition? Because we have a code of ethics or a code of values that's on our website. And if they're members, I believe they have violated it. And I think they are not members. But that's one of the ways that we balance it. I mean, you make a great point, Dawn, but we need their expertise as well. And you watch their behavior, that they're not just shamelessly self-promoting. They bring really good information to the game.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I participate on the Broadband Policy Committee, and we'd be lost for these last 7 years without that education. So maybe something in the future as we get more, even better at this, we might not want that, but I think at this stage it's been very helpful. Well, I guess, except for summertime, I try to participate on the policy committee and know what's going on. But we know where it is. I really encourage people to have their own link for the to join the coalition. That helps a lot, and there's a lot of information on the website. So
and it helps us too when we can say we are a coalition of over 3,000 Mainers who are focused on getting fast, affordable internet to everybody. That helps that helps the Broadband Coalition very much. So if you don't have anything left for me, I want to go find out what's being done with my car. I've been here 3 hours and I want to get to Ellsworth, and I have
tomorrow.
I have 2 coolers of frozen food in the back of my car. I'm hoping you're going to make it to my daughter's apartment tonight. So I'm happy to continue the conversation, but I'm getting antsy trying to figure out what's going on here. So
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. Good luck.
welcome. Thank you. Whoop, there's the dog.
They
Bye-bye.
agree. Okay, take care. Bye-bye. Okay, that was a lot. Any other comments or we can bring this back on the agenda regularly, how we want to deal with this. I think, what time is it? We've got
Got a couple loose ends I want to tie up.
yeah, so I mean, we could put it on the agenda as a constant to check in on, and have it more a focal point of how we're going to organize and prepare for this. But I think the more immediate thing that we have to finalize is the RFP, which was circulated. Evan circulated.
Yeah, I was just about to send the final PDF attachment. Susan, what is your email?
SLAMB59@hughes.net. I think you've already,
SLAMB.
SLAMB59@hughes.net. I know you've texted me before, but I don't know if you have my email. I think you do.
And do you have Joe's or?
SLAMB@hughesnet.com.
SLAMB59@hughes.net.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Sending over that, and then I'll pull it up on my computer as well, so everybody can get a look at it. It's going to go to everybody's email.
And we also have Joe who joined us today.
Yeah, and I got Joe's email.
You got those, okay.
Yeah.
So Evan, do you want to take us through? Oh, we didn't approve the minutes from last meeting. This is only Wiscasset because it goes to our select board. Do I have a motion to?
I move we approve the minutes from last meeting.
Marty,
I second.
okay, all in favor?
Thank goodness, Marty.
Yeah,
I almost didn't get it through.
okay.
Okay.
So let's move on to the RFP and
Hey,
the
Carla?
draft.
Carla,
Yeah,
before you move on Zoom, you need to have a roll call vote. So you call everyone individually and they say yes or no.
oh, I didn't know that. Okay,
Aye,
okay.
Marty.
Marty, are you I?
I was mute.
Yeah. And
Carla, aye.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
great. Thank you, Dusty.
1 second. I'll get some minutes going as well. All right, so this is the final. Can you guys all see this?
We hope it's the final, yes.
Yeah, I'll zoom in just a hair. Might be helpful. Put it in PDF form, which cleaned up it coming out on different pages. I know that was the thing that happened a few times. Fixed a couple different areas where we referred to one thing versus the other versus plan, report, consultant. I addressed some of those issues. I kept some of them the same because we're looking for respondents at this stage responding to this. I moved the submission deadline up to August 12th because it's going to need to be reviewed by Dresden. I don't know if Woolwich and I think, but we'll be able to send it out next week once everybody has the chance to approve it. And response back is then.
We're reviewing on the 19th, as you're aware.
I was not aware when you were going to, but yes.
And for Wiscasset,
I'm sending it to Dennis right after this, and same with Kim and Dan in
great,
Dresden.
great.
We're hoping to get that out very quickly. I talked to 3 of the consultant people we'll be sending it to out of the 4 that I know of right now. I texted Mark, I called Mission Broadband, called Casco Bay Advisors, got all their emails and telephone numbers. So they're all excited to get something moving on their end. So they're excited to respond to the RFP. And then I'm waiting for a response from Tilson, who does not answer any phones. So I've got an email out that waiting for them to respond. And just fill them in that what we're looking for is a fiber to the premise project. Just gave them a brief thing, fiber to the premise, asset review, pro forma expenses for a muni-owned project, public-private partnerships, and told them that we wanted a bid split evenly 3 ways amongst the towns. And they're like, yep, no problem. We've done all that before. I said, good. So everybody is waiting eagerly for that once it's all ready, set to go. And then I've sent emails to the Dresden folks, except for you, Susan and Joe, to put in, and same thing, I've sent one to Woolwich, a new application for planning grant money to the Island Institute. Previously, we sent one to Connect Maine, which is the state agency, and they've been sitting on it with the transition to the new agency. So we're just going to send one to Island Institute. Krista asked me for it. So as soon as it gets updated with some committee member bios, just basically some community information, if you've been on boards of committees and if you have any relevant tech experience or anything like that. They're ready to roll on that. So that just has to get updated, and I'll send that over once you guys are done with that. And I think everybody is up to date everywhere for the first time in a while. So I know, Don, we were talking about over chat some conflict of interest issues. Yeah, if you want to bring up any of those, or we could discuss, or what you think.
All my comments on that relate to the prior study that was done and making sure that we have a level playing field for all participants. And I believe it's in the public domain, but expecting bidders to search versus offering it either in the RFP or in a bidder's call, which could be a 20-minute, hey, just want to make sure that, you know, everybody understands what needs to be done kind of thing. That would make sure that we're doing a fair and objective bid. I know there are ones we anticipate not only bidding but winning. So I don't want to get caught in a ethics issue, especially so early in my tenure here in Dresden. So
No problem. Then let's go ahead and send the thing. Doesn't matter to me.
you know, they may set it aside and say, no, we're going to go and we're going to saturate and do it completely ourselves. But for those where the evaluation criteria is knowledge of the area, I just think it's a fair way to do it. So that's my 2 cents.
Has everybody read the last version of this, the RFP? I know we've kind of gone over it before. I got to say, I had amnesia or something about the list of disclaimers, and Evan assured me that that was part of the discussion at the end of last meeting. And I just didn't know whether that, Don, that came out of your discussion with your lawyers. Because I know you wanted a lawyer to review all that in terms of the RFP.
We didn't have an official attorney review, since that's a different can of worms here.
Right.
But it was a cursory review and was comfortable with the structure and the elements that were in there. So
Okay.
again, our potential stake in this is $7,500. So we're not, treating it as if it's, $750,000. So.
Right. Okay.
And the monies have been allocated. So we're not worried about that.
Other comments, anything else on the RFP that we're going to finally get going on? Okay, I'm
going to send it out to the town admin, so then it'll be with the board.
We need a vote on this, on the RFP? I don't think we do we?
Well, we might as well. I move to approve and send to the Wiscasset, to the town manager.
Okay, so Wiscasset, maybe we do this individually because it's a vote for each committee. Marty, do you want to second that?
I second it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, do you guys Woolwich one, Woolwich and Tommy?
Yeah.
Tommy, you Army of One.
Well, we're
Yeah.
having a committee meeting tomorrow, so we'll review it
Perfect.
and which you're welcome to come to, Evan, if you're available. It's at
I don't know if I'll be able to make it, but if I can, I'll give it a shot.
it's at 5 tomorrow.
Got it.
And did your committee want to vote on this now, Don, or?
Yeah, I'm ex officio, so my vote doesn't count. But if Dresden, 3 representatives in Dresden agree that we should be kicking this out, I move that we consider that. And I got 1 thumb up.
I'm not sure if
Aye.
I have official status, but if I do, I'm for it.
You do, because I spoke with Judy and you're a
Okay.
recognized member of the committee, as is
Okay.
Joe and Peter.
Yahoo.
So it's unanimous.
Good.
Great. So that was fast. Do we have other updates? Evan, you reported on where the grant situation was. That was
Yep.
my last agenda item. And the proverbial issue of how we do more outreach and communication. Do you have the latest count, at least for Wisconsin, on the survey? Because that
I
was.
was just about to bring that out. So I got the login fixed and I'm show you guys all that. There you go. You should be able to see that. So Wiscasset 75, Dresden 40, and Woolwich 116. So look at Woolwich kicking everybody's butt.
I've got two
I did-
more. I've got 2 more paper
ones. Okay. And then Peter, I didn't know if this included the ones that you input or how many you did input or.
I've still got, I think, about 50
Okay.
to go.
Okay, good.
I've talked to my secretary and she's interested.
Okay.
All right. If you want any help too, you can give me a stack and I could do them too.
All right, I'm gonna, as soon as we adjourn today, I'm going to chat with her and
I
get us
must
going.
I must have missed a memo. How are we capturing the paper surveys?
We
Evan,
gotta
what do I
input
need?
them. We gotta input them by ourselves. So you can do it either with like an incognito tab or a private tab. That way it doesn't keep registering that you're the same person.
Okay,
You can input, and I've obviously offered to do that too.
okay. Yeah, because we've got at least 100 more. Or
Oh, great.
probably.
You're shaming us. We got to get this out again more, but it is a tool for letting people know that we exist. And ultimately we can publish what it says, but it is an outreach tool.
Yeah, and just as important as the survey is that it has so any more people that you send it to, try and get them to do it online. So that way we can get the speed test data, which is priority number 1-A.
Has the speed test, has the change in speed test information been obvious? Like,
Let me pull it up. My computer might go a little slow because now I'm really trying to do stuff. You guys see the window I'm opening right now, the Express Optimizer?
Yep.
Okay. So you go to the main broadbandcoalition.org, and I've actually got an Excel sheet that I update every, it was every month, but then I started doing it once every maybe like 10 weeks or so. But the goal is to have participation of 10% of each town on this. And I think most of us, I think we're all hanging right around 3 to 4%. So right now, Woolwich is at 7.81% participation, left here with 96 fixed locations, which is great. And then according to them, there's 1,306 households with some of the out of 102, some of those are cellular. So yeah, 6 cellular locations, 96 fixed locations. So looking better all the time. And then if you want to go to like a certain neighborhood, this is a great way to see where you should go. We don't have like any up here off of Mountain Road at all. We don't have any over here on Meadow Road at all. Chop Cross Road, this section of Middle Road is pretty desolate. So those are kind of key areas that if anybody wanted to go, if anybody knows anybody in that neighborhood in your committee, those are great places to look. I'll pull up Dresden. I love this tool. I don't know if you can tell, but this is something I really enjoyed checking out and figuring out where kind of the problem areas are. Dresden is jumping up. So we got 9.25%, 58 fixed locations out of 724 households. And again, big areas where you could see where we'd love to see a couple speed tests pop up in there. Entire section of Gardner Road is pretty empty. These areas going out here up toward the border.
I was thinking the trailer parks off of 27.
Yep, those are good spots to go to just to get a quick high density area. And I'll pull up Wiscasset because I think we might have a few more than that. But we still have our share of dead zones. But Lincoln County, I think right now is top 3 participation wise in the state. So yeah, even like Wiscasset, we've got a pretty good density downtown, but this whole section of Lowell Town Road to Bradford Road is completely uncovered, and big stretches throughout Foy Road, Dickinson Road, and then do some more down around Birch Point, Old Ferry, and these areas as well.
How about Willow Lane?
Willow Lane, I see you right here. Marty, I see your whole family right here, loud and proud. Got the 2 dots. 86 over 5 and 87 over 6. So you qualify as underserved, which is just about everybody here. That was one thing I hope to talk to somebody at the Broadband Coalition about at some point, is they've got these color situations all mixed up. So the colors are only based on download. And I wish that they would reflect that for what the state guidelines are, and just do a 4-color situation. Well, they already do, but you know what I'm saying? It should be anything over 100, 100, and anything over 50, 10, and anything under that, just so it can cohabitate with what the rules already are for how you classify people. That would help a lot, because right now green doesn't mean anything. Green can mean that your speed is okay, but that doesn't mean anything for the grant process or how you're defined as a speed. But what we can glean off of it right off the top is that based off of all these upload speeds, everybody below 10, which is already over 50% of people that have taken a speed test in Wiscasset, they're over 50% are unserved. And we can say that it's quite higher than that at the end of the day.
So this is the information they're looking at for the grants, right?
A lot of this data, why this speed test is so important to do, because I've previously had other committees want to do, it's not necessarily the most user-friendly one because it asks you an address and there's a couple different pages. It's not that difficult, but it's not like Ookla, which is the main speed test that gets pulled up when you Google it. This information gets turned over to the Vitro mapping system that the state is using to evaluate the grant process. So this is why we want so many people to do it. And obviously they've set a goal of 10%, and we at least want to reach that, just to say that we're hitting all the metrics everywhere.
So one way is to jointly market this with getting the survey out even more.
Yep, and that's why anytime we do any more community events in the summer, stay away from the paper survey as much as you can, unless it's somebody that you think is definitely not going to do it. Give them a flyer with the website on it, and then just refer that it's on the town website, and that's the best way to do it. It beats the hell out of typing these in on paper.
I have a question for the other towns. Do you guys have town email lists that you use for general kind of public information purposes?
I know Wiscasset has a list of people that get all of the minutes for the select board meetings, but I don't think they have a general like newsletter list, but yeah, probably just people that are on committees and in that newsletter list is the best that we have.
Or if you've signed up for it,
Yeah, but that's what I'm
you
saying.
can sign up for it.
Dusty, do you know of anything, or is that your understanding as well?
So we have an email list or something? No, I don't know. I can ask, but presently I don't.
Yeah, I've been working with Daniel and Dresden to try to get email included because we have all kinds of lists, but not when it comes to email. Just add this column with this information.
Yep,
Right.
it does work for getting a little passive thing out there, so you don't have to. Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't reach everybody, but it's a way of getting some conversations
Yeah.
going, I think.
Are there particular opportunities for the rest of the summer for all three towns? I mean, or individually?
well,
in towns?
Wiscasset has a Summerfest. Dresden just had theirs. Woolwich, I don't know how big Woolwich Days is going to be this year, but also a thing. And then there's got to be at least one or two other things to show up to. We just got to look around. I know
Well,
that
Wiscasset always has the art walk every Thursday
Yep.
monthly.
I
But
know
I'm just-
we have some good Facebook groups. People post a lot of information on
Yep.
Wiscasset Facebook groups, which anybody I think could use.
So we should just mine all that if we have enough people to do it. I don't know, we might be able to just set something up in Wiscasset on Main Street during the art
Yeah,
walk.
we can always have a table.
Yeah, we should probably do
Even if we're not invited, we can bring our own table.
that.
It might be a useful use of the time of this joint broadband committee to, from time to time, come up with some sort of messaging sound bites that each town can use in their public messaging for, channels. Just I don't know what that consists of, but just a few, maybe a dozen or so 1 or 2 sentence sound bites that can just be a steady stream of, we're making progress on doing this, and here's all the great reasons why we're doing this and what the great outcomes are going to be, and just keep saying that over and over again for, once a month or whatever until we're done.
It's a great idea.
That's good.
And
I'll have to
I
think about
assume
it,
you
yeah.
all know your towns well to know where the opportunities are to get out there.
Yeah, I think at least in Woolwich, I think we need to work on that. But we do have 2 different Facebook channels, and we have a website and a mailing list, and I think the postcard idea is a really good one. We've done that before, and I think it's probably worth spending $1,000 or whatever it would cost to do that, maybe once or twice. But I mean, we just need some good words to go on those things that are going to be effective. In that, I think that if we could have Nancy back again, maybe from time to time, or at least once more, to get some specific, concrete guidance on messaging ideas or what other
Yeah.
groups are doing.
And that's the huge focus as of right now. Pretty much every group is working on focus, because if Spectrum's going to, start advertising against not just municipal stuff, but even partnering with Consolidated or any other fiber company in Maine, which they will, then nobody's getting any, of this federal money for broadband, because Spectrum isn't eligible to receive any of it. So that's why they spend so much time now advocating against it.
Is Comcast eligible?
I don't know if
No,
it is
not
for us.
unless they're named in a particular grant, like Consolidated's fiber arm got a lot of money for an NTIA grant, national technology, I forgot what it stands, information.
Administration or something. whatever it
Administration,
is.
yeah, and that was a very competitive grant, which funded several towns along Blue Hill and I forgot where else. So they were named in that, but otherwise, they don't get the money. And you kind of want it that way, to bring them in as partners if you want them. But I was also going to echo Evan's part of this connectivity network with, you know, inside group. I can also see what comes out of the coalition in terms of messaging that we can bring back, but that doesn't say we shouldn't be thinking ourselves what works best in our own communities for this. And if our communities have anybody that's really good at this kind of stuff, I would get them on board. I know Richard Litz suggested somebody for Wiscasset who he's worked with. He couldn't be here today. I think she's working with the library here in Wiscasset on the board. But I would be also looking for local people to help us with the messaging.
I wrote some prose. I could show you my screen if you're interested.
Sure.
Yeah.
What do I click share screen at the bottom here?
I'm trying to give you the ability to. 1 second. If I can.
I think it just popped up.
You
There
can
you
see.
go. Give that a try, Peter.
Wow. I got,
Does it work? I'm not seeing it.
I'm just gonna click share and see what happens. Can you see
Oh,
that?
yeah, now it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Yep.
writing a web page. And I just started yesterday. And I have little stuff like that I'm doing.
Huh.
I own,
If you're willing to share this, like email this out to us.
Yeah, that would be great.
That would be great.
Great, yeah.
Yeah.
okay, I'll be happy to
Could
do
all
that.
steal some words from you.
No problem. Of course, remember, I'm just starting with it, but I'll be happy to share my progress. Okay.
Great. This is a little bit off message, but not quite, because you mentioned polls in here. Peter last meeting said, what happens to the half-mile syndrome off of, you know, away from the poles? And at least one provider told me what they did. Whereas if you have conduit, if you're willing to put it above ground, or you have poles, for some reason you do have some poles going to your property, they consider that part of the cost. That one was Axiom, who we've been talking with. And they just blended into the cost of what the project is. I don't know what the other providers might say, if indeed we get to that point. But Peter, you had asked that question, given that I guess you're a half-mile off the poles.
I'm certainly a quarter mile away. And I have two poles that come in part way, crossing a brook, and then I go down into conduit, 2-inch conduit.
Yeah.
But my guess is, I mean, I asked Spectrum about it, and they wanted me to dig a new trench and charge me $10,000. And I just thought that was silly.
But when we finally get to the real nuts and bolts of what things would cost, and this is much later, you know, when you're actually building it out, maybe we can use these kinds of little snippets as stories of what the difference is. But I just thought I'd mention it because you had asked it last time, and I did find out at least how one provider does it.
And
But-
and tell me again, this
Oh, they-
provider, who they are and what did they say?
Oh, just that if you're a half-mile out and you have conduit, you're willing to put it above ground, the line, or you have poles, but it's not connected, you know, to some degree, they will put it in as part of the cost of the project. If you don't have any of that, then it would be an extra cost.
And what did they say? So I have, say I'm a half-mile out and I have conduit, how much are they talking about?
I didn't get into the details. I just thought, you might want to know that there were options out there, or at least how one person did it. But we're not there yet. That
Oh, yeah,
comes
fine.
down-
But just, I'm curious, who was the vendor?
It was Axiom Technologies.
Axiom Tech, okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. Yeah, I really, it's kind of silly if you ask me. And this is the kind of thing Spectrum should be able to do for anybody.
Yeah.
You know, just a little box on the street and run the fiber into somebody's house.
Well, we got it all over the place. So this is part of the issue. So anyway, moving on, this meeting was scheduled. Are there more questions or suggestions actually for how to share information and kick this off? I don't want to shut down the conversation and all that.
I would like to add that we're working on revamping the Wiscasset Town website so that it's more user-friendly and transparent.
Cool.
We can put a lot more information on there for
Great.
people. But pretty much hitting directly at what Nancy was telling us we ought to be doing. And I personally am a stickler for that and have been trying to get that happening for a long time to make sure we're doing everything so that nobody can claim or complain that we're hiding stuff. So that was nice to hear. And I would say, Peter, when you're working on your messages there, make sure we pull out anything that villainizes Spectrum's activities against us, and because we can get people riled up in Wiscasset against that kind of activity very easily.
So you're saying don't be controversial?
No, I'm saying just, like be really frank about what they're trying to do, and we'll
Oh,
just
okay.
hold them up above the table.
I have a lot of experience being snarky.
Yeah.
So if you,
Now's the time to roll up your sleeves and get ready to be that.
I was thinking actually of having it like a not safe for work notification and for, adult language.
Just nothing dirty before 10:30, okay?
Or you
Okay.
just call it not safe for work, and when you remove the filter, it's all you see is Spectrum, not safe for work. They're trying to cripple our business folks and keep them from being able to upload and do business the way they want to do it. So,
There you go. That's
and
exactly what we want to keep saying.
I'm not afraid of having dialogue with people, I'm not at all. I'm not afraid of that at all. And I've talked to many, many people about many subjects on the internet, comment sections at the ends of highly controversial articles.
mhm.
So what I was thinking of doing was having a way of people to contact me by email, and then I would edit somewhat what they say and then respond to what they say and have a reverse chronological order blog
That sounds fun.
and see how that works.
Cool.
Well, as
Let's see, on the topic of on the topic of websites, good for you and Donna, actually, there's a big push to get all of the towns that have websites to change their either if they're .coms, orgs, whatever, to .gov. And that's not being talked about enough, but they're trying to make that a big security thing. So you might look into the government's pushing that for grant programs, and not everybody has gotten the message. So figure I threw that in there as well. That's something that Westport's been working on.
Thanks. I'll pass that along.
What are we now? We're
.org. for Wisconsin.
.org. Oh, okay.
Westport
far
used to be
go-
.us.
as far as timing goes to get to counter Spectrum's misinformation, I would think we'd want to wait until after we get the RFPs in and stay out of their radar for a little while.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, I was just thinking of working on those messages and
Getting ready for it.
Right.
Plan of attack.
Do we want to move the meetings back to our regularly scheduled
was
for the
just-
first Monday and skip?
I was
3
just
weeks
gonna
ahead?
say that we did it today because Nancy couldn't come next week. Is it easier to remember the first and third versus alternating? Or do we need, I guess it's only once in a while we don't have alternating. Is there a preference? Well, maybe we just go to first and third. Is that easier to remember?
Yeah.
Sure.
I won't be able to do the third, but
I'm sorry, what's that?
I won't be able to do the 3rd, but the 1st works.
Cool.
Okay. And maybe next time next meeting, well, we'll have updates on where we're at with the RFP and sending that out. But maybe we can dig into the outreach and communication issues in more detail. And I can nose around. I'm sure Evan can bring back what's being developed at the state level and anything else we see, basically. I mean, everybody. And if it's helpful, there are national groups as well that are promoting different messaging. I don't know if you want to be inundated with that. I can certainly share some links if you want to see more. I might send out a few.
Yeah, that would be really useful, Carla, I think.
I think I've done that in the past, but there are some central groups that are following these issues and are good information on broadband, ones that I go to regularly anyway. And all of that is on the Broadband Coalition website with resources. So please do, mbc.com is the website. So please do join that. That would be the easiest. Okay, is there anything else for next meeting that people want to focus on?
I was
I
going
would
to say,
like
go
Yeah.
ahead, if Susan and Joe have any questions, I can stay after and get them caught up on anything you
Okay.
guys might have.
Yeah. Yeah,
Anybody
I just want to know
Cool.
when the Dresden Committee meets and how.
I don't think we have meetings yet,
Okay,
but something tells me Judy Tunkel is, when she gets back, is gonna
okay,
start doing that.
Correct. That was our discussion. As a regular committee chair, she has to report to the select board every other week.
Mhm.
So we'll figure out what's convenient and get those on the calendar.
great.
Great. So anything else or are we adjourned? Okay.
You got to vote to adjourn.
Oh, we have to vote to, Wiscasset has to vote to adjourn. Thank
Make a
you.
motion to adjourn.
Okay, so,
Evan left, so you don't have a quorum anymore.
yeah, we've got, what happened to Evan? Did he leave?
Forced adjournment. Yeah, where'd you go, Evan?
Yeah, well, it's the two of us. So Marty put in the first, I can't put in the second. Anyway, do we agree? Yes. Wiscasset agrees
Yes.
anyway.
Yeah.
Okay,
We can't continue forever.
yeah, this is for sure. Okay, so we're good. And I don't know, Evan was controlling the meeting, so I don't know what happened to him. But we can all individually leave anyway.
He was gonna hang on for Susan and Joe. I wonder what.
Oh, was he going to do that? Oh, yeah, that's right. So all the rest.
Actually, like Susan, all I need to know is when the next meeting is, and I have the, PDF that was by mail already, so I could be reviewing that, and that's great.
Yeah.
But I think I have anything I need. So if he
Great.
shows back up,
I think our
and I'm
last,
gone. Yeah.
our last meeting is a good one to watch, if you want to watch that, just because we had a very full discussion about the RFP. So that's a good way to get caught up if you want to look at that.
It's on the Wiscasset website.
Okay,
Is it? Okay.
Well, no,
Just-
it's on the Wiscasset website. It's on the Wiscasset YouTube page. I can find it and send you a link, Carla, and you can send it out to everybody.
Yeah, that would be great.
All right.
Okay.
okay,
I don't
That'd
think
be great.
I don't have Susan and Joe's emails, but
I'll shoot
Evan
you
got it,
mine.
right? Yeah,
I'll send mine to you.
okay. Do you have my email?
I
got it
think it's
forwarded.
in, I think I've got it somewhere.
Yeah. If you got the information today, it was forwarded.
Right,
Okay, that would be great. We'll add you.
okay, great.
Okay,
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you everyone for all your work.
yeah, take care. Glad you could join us.
Yeah,
Take care.
sure.
Bye.
Bye-bye. There's Evan.
There we go. Sorry, my
Uh,
laptop died, but we're back.
Mhm.
Well,